Welcome to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast, helping you get to your onward journey. A friendly service that helps you get from A to B, or probably nowhere at all.
Hello and welcome to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast. I'm your host, James, and with me is co-host and producer.
Sam?
Yeah, there we
Oh,
are.
do you know what? I completely forgot it's me who says it.
Yeah, got your own name there, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I was really tempted to say hiya, George, but then I
That's
decided
not one of the
against it.
names that came up in the AI search. Two Chris's and a John, if I recall.
But yeah, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I've been slowly decluttering the model room, which really needed it. It was just I couldn't get any work done. It was just that messy. It just distracted me. So it's taken many, many days and lots of bags of rubbish. There's so much crap in here. Um, that yeah, I just I'm still not done, but I'm almost there. And then I can continue with the 009 build. Um, yeah, that's pretty much what's going on there. And yeah, all good otherwise. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm okay. Once again, there's been no hobby done inside the house recently. However, completely out of sequence for everybody else. I was at the Southampton Model Railway Show this weekend, just gone. I'm not going to give a full review, but I will say that I feel possibly some of the best layouts I've seen at a show thus far. The one of the complaints that went from some of the people who sort of swim in the same circles as me was that there weren't enough double O modern image stuff. Now there was quite a lot of the N-Gage modern image stuff, or at least like the eras that I quite like. But I felt like the level of modeling across all of the layouts was phenomenal. And that's going from the N-Gage, the 009. There was a lot of 009, which was great. And a lot of O-Gage layouts as well. So there was a good mix of different scales and sizes there. And I got to see things that I wouldn't usually see. So I saw Spirit of Shap. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it, but it's this wonderful little narrow gauge layout that's set on a seaside with a lighthouse. And the
Oh, I know
track.
the one.
Oh, what's it called?
Can't remember it, but I know which one.
It's like Stone Key or something like that. And I will try and find it whilst we're talking in a
It's
bit.
it's sort of it's not a conventional shaped layout, is it?
No, it's almost like an eye shaped baseboard,
And
as
it's kind of
in,
a triangular setup of track.
yeah, it's sort of like an interlocking crisscrossing of tracks. So effectively, a train has to come in before it can then go off to a different side. It's yeah, it's a bonkers track plan, and I'll post a picture up on Instagram. It'll either already be up by the time this episode comes out, or it will be something that comes out in the after this episode comes out. But phenomenal layout. The scenery was amazing, and the 009 stock that was rolling on it was just beautifully done. It was a mix of 3D printing, and some of the kits I wouldn't have known it was 3D printing if I hadn't spoken to the layout owner. But yeah, really, really lovely looking layout. And it was nice to see a proper beach layout that was also 009 as well. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it
I
is a very
feel,
lovely layout. I know exactly which one you mean. Um, I can't. I mean, it's just remembering names anyway. But it was in Railway Modeler, if I recall. Anyone who has the 009 Society, I'm pretty certain it has been in the 009 Society Journal as well at some point. But yeah, it's yeah, a lovely little layout, like you say, and quite a rare sort of theme of being set on a beach, isn't it? Sort of most 009 set in Wales.
yeah. And
I don't know
also, what's nice about it is it's obviously got the sea, but the lighthouse that's on it is usually you get sort of the big tall structures tend to stereotypically be put at the back of the layout, but because of where the lighthouse would be in real life, almost center stage right at the front is the lighthouse. So you have something that breaks the scene up and you can get some nice little angles of it as well. And yeah, it was a really I felt like 009 was really in its own at the show. Um, and just as I said, all of the layouts that were there looked phenomenal. I didn't look at a layout and go, well, that's not up to scratch to the rest of it, which I shouldn't do, but you do in your head. You sort of judge various bits and bobs, and I felt like it was a really, really good show for the layouts. I feel like the layouts was the strong point of it.
Yeah, you might do that. I don't do that. I don't judge. I'm an equal layouts opportunities, Sam. So that's your own snobbery there, I'm afraid.
Yeah, they do say that about us. They say that Sam is the snobby one.
They do. Yeah, it's because you're more south than me, you see. I'm a northerner to you. Not to
Oh
our
no.
listeners. You.
One of my favorite things that came out of last week's episode is the fact that I think it was Finsborough O-Gauge went. This is a quick example of this week's episode, and it concentrated on the south and London, and then it quickly zoomed up to Scotland. Just missed everything that was in between. I thought that was really good. Anybody who's good at photo editing or Photoshop or anything like that, if you could do a picture of the UK according to Model Rail Replacement Podcast and cut out anything that is just above London all the way to the Scottish border, and then just move the the map together, that would be great. Just so we have a map according to the Model Rail Replacement Podcast.
The Western region is above London. Goes to Reading.
But yeah, I'm good. I feel like I've been skimping on the actual model railway side of it in terms of doing my own stuff, but I have been enjoying the hobby just from a different perspective, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It's always nice to go to a model show. I haven't been to one this year yet. The Milton Keynes one used to be in January, and then they moved it to June. I don't. I think COVID sort of forced it that way, but yeah, it always feels like there's something a bit missing. There is nothing. There's no real proper big show or a half decent size show to make the effort to travel for around this way at this time of year. So it's yeah, must be nice to be able to go to that. I think the closest one I get is Prince's Risborough. I've got one coming up in the next couple of weeks. But otherwise, I'll have to wait until Abingdon.
So I know from talking to you in the previous section that a lot of your stuff, you're not even telling me what's been going on hobby wise on the layout because you're keeping it all secret, hush, hush. But I assume, regardless, it's been good, the hobby that you have done.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. I mean, the only thing that hasn't been secret, hush, hush, was the platform level signal box I bought from Buggles Kelly Station. Tom posted that on Facebook and Instagram for people to see um, what can be done with the box. So that's out there on the internet if you want a little hint of what is going on. But yeah, otherwise not much else. Um, although I'd like to say my layout forged in red will be in the 009 News Journal next month. So
Ooh.
yeah, so if you're a 009 modeler and you want to know about that, so join the society and you can have a little read. So yeah, that's what's been going on there. Yeah, as I say, I've just been to sorting the model room out. It's just so much stuff. There's still too much stuff in here. I mean, I've got so much Lego Star Wars. It's all packed away because I've got nowhere to display it. It's all these people who like to flex on Instagram with their Lego Star Wars models. And I look at it and go, you've only been collecting for about 3, 4 years. I can tell by the models. I've got stuff from the original 1999 Lego sets. I am an original Lego Star Wars collector, and I've got nowhere to display it. I need a bigger room.
Do you know what? You should kick the family out of the house, move them into the shed, and then you'll have a much bigger room in the space of your house.
I don't think the house is sufficiently large enough either.
Yeah, this is why you have to pick a hobby and stay in that lane, or make one of those hobbies a video game.
Yeah. Yeah, I like building things. So all my hobbies are building or of some description. If it ain't building a layout, it's building a kit. If it's not building a kit, it's building Lego. So yeah, there we are.
Um,
That's that's
here's something that's going to throw a little spanner in the works that's popped up in between the chat that we've been having. Someone has just sent me a a video that Bachmann have apparently announced that they're going to be doing their spring announcements soon.
Yeah,
So
I don't think that'd be too far off. We can start frothing at the mouth and speculating on that one. All the various 009s I imagine they'll be announcing.
that's what I'm hoping for.
But I know some 009 has been announced by Bachmann, but not Bachmann Europe, Bachmann USA. Should we talk about that in the news?
Yes, let's.
We really should have a little bit of music playing here because I always leave it expecting a little tune and listen back and go, oh yeah, we just jumped straight into the news. We don't have a little musical interlude to sort of bridge between the two.
Maybe if I can not be too lazy, I'll go and try and find one.
Real newsy as well, real 90s newsy. Yeah.
Something like that. I'm gonna just announce that we do have a date for the Bachmann announcements. This is going to be so difficult for me to edit, so I apologize to everyone. But Bachmann's spring announcements are going to be on Wednesday, the 5th of February. So that is next week. So it'll actually be, this comes out on the Monday. By Wednesday, we'll have the Bachmann spring announcements, and we are hoping for some delightful little narrow gauge engines, I think.
Yeah, something like that. I reckon there must be an A2 Blue Peter coming along, surely. You can't have the real one running around looking that wonderful and not have a model version of it. It's just outrageous. But to see in that, I suppose. Bachmann USA news then. I'm there. I found it. Most of it was about American stuff, and we don't talk about American things on here. Sorry, Steve.
Yes, Steve got really upset that we made him a promise that we were going to start talking American, and then we didn't. So
Yes, yeah. We don't talk American things. And Steve drinks Dr. Pepper. Tastes like fizzy Benylin. I'm gonna shock you. I like Dr. Pepper.
oh, I,
There we go. I've got two Partridge Sims in there. Boom. Bachmann USA announcements. Yeah, as I say, most of it is American models. I'm sure there's some very exciting things out there for anyone who does model American railroads. We don't. I did look at modeling it at one point, but I just take on way too many projects and have made too many ideas. And then, as we've just previously discussed, I have no room for all these ideas. So, if you want to pay for me to have some sort of warehouse space where I can set up all my model railways, much like one of the more well-known YouTubers has just set up, then yeah, please go ahead and pay for that. And I'll be most grateful. Most grateful. I'll give your name a shout out. Anyway, the more important announcements of the Bachmann USA range was that the Sir Handel that was previously announced will be also coming out in the guise of Sir Hayden in Taleclin Railway Red and Taleclin Railway Green. And I imagine that it will probably follow suit as the Taleclin locomotives that were the Scar Lowy tooling and be coming out via the European range. But if you look around, you can usually find suppliers who can bring those models in. So if you are after one, yeah, that is due. And following that, which you're probably more interested for British modelers, is the Festinio coal truck has been added to the Bachmann USA range. It was added as part of the Thomas and Friends narrow gauge range and also as the Festinio coal truck itself. So obviously, if you don't want to pay through the roof, you go for the non-Thomas branded one because then you're not paying the license fee. So yeah, that was sort of an announcement back from USA, which is quite exciting. The Sir Hayden's quite promising because usually, as I said, we had to wait quite a long time for Taleclin to come along before they sold their Thomas range. And like you said before, it's probably more profitable maybe to try and sell the Thomas models first before you do the real engines. But it seems they've just jumped on board with this one immediately. So if that means that we might see an Edward Thomas in the future and a Dolgock, who knows? And obviously they've announced Duncan previously of part of the Thomas range, so maybe we'll see a Douglas as well. So yeah, exciting stuff there. And then other news, Cavalex's First Class 60 Steel on Steel limited edition has hit the shelves in Rails of Sheffield, so that is now in stock if you are after being one of the first to get hold of a Class 60, just head over to Rails there. And then, as of time of recording, we know Rapido Trains are heading to Rails of Sheffield and to announce 300 gauge models. But with some clever editing, it's going to sound like I'm about to just announce them right now, but I won't be doing that till tomorrow. So here I am in the future, handing over to myself.
Thanks, James. Well, first things first, then, is Rapido's announcement, because actually there's two announcements today. Rapido have announced 3 new projects, and obviously the most exciting one is going to be the announcement of a brand new locomotive. We previously talked about it the other week, and where they had hinted there was going to be a Scottish and a Southern region loco on the horizon. So the Scottish one has now been revealed, and it is the Caledonian Single 422 number 123. Now, this model previously was produced by Triang and Hornby, but this is obviously going to be a far more updated, more interesting, and highly more detailed model. I think it's very exciting. It's going to go really nicely with their Jones goods and comes in a variety of liveries, starting from Caledonian Railway Blue. We've got LMS Red, LMS Black, and BR Black. And what is great about this loco was anyone who liked models of the 1980s, particularly Settle and Carlisle, I'm sure I remember seeing it running around there. This loco was out on a lot of rail tours during the 80s. So, it's not just for the Period 2 modeler. You can have it in Caledonian Blue for a 1980s modeler as well. So exciting times there. Hitting prices, I think they're $249.95 without the sound, and $364 with the sound. But if you shop around, I'm sure you can find retail discount. Following on from that, and just after the order book for Batch 1 has closed, Batch 2 of their Evolution coaches has been announced. So there's a whole new range of coaches to browse through and see if there's anything that might interest you. I think North British Railways is one of the liveries in there. There's Great Western Railway. I think there's Great Eastern, even Metropolitan. I think that's going to be a very popular one, particularly to go with the Metropolitan tanks that they previously produced. So very exciting stuff to hear there from Rapido in regards to that. Caledonian Railway, obviously, to go with their Cali locos. That makes sense. Highland Railway coaches as well. So there's a lot of Scottish being looked after here. London and South Western Railway, as I said. There's London Transport. So that's also going to be a great one. Lancashire and Yorkshire in there. North Eastern Railways in there. London Midland gets another round. And thirdly, then, is their LNWR open wagons and new toolings. These are running up trio of the announcements, with tooling both the D84 4-plank open goods wagons as well as the D90 loco wagons. There's a total of 17 models to be released in liveries from LNWR, LMS, BR, and even a private owner wagons, PLA. So plenty to choose from there. So that's all the excitement from Rapido. Always great to see what they've got coming along. So I look forward to seeing those models. I've got to be honest, that single wheeler looks very tempting, especially the fact you can get some coaches to go with it. Following that then, Bachmann also, ahead of their spring announcements, have revealed a new tooling, and that is the Class 74. I don't think anyone saw that one coming either. So very exciting news for Southern modelers, particularly those who sort of model late BR, early BR. Those locos were sort of used on boat trains to Weymouth and things like that. So they spread across the southern region. They were converted to a diesel electric type locomotive, much like the Class 73. So I think this would be quite a welcome addition to the range, and I'm sure many people are looking forward to that one. Once we have a few more details on that, I'm sure we'll go back over it and let you know a little bit more on that. But that was news from the Bachmann camp, and all I can do is hand back over to myself in the past to talk to you in the future.
Thanks, James. Thanks for that report. That was most helpful. So there we are. Very exciting news from Rapido. And that's our news, Sam. Quite some exciting items there, I thought. What do you reckon?
Yeah, obviously I'm speechless about the Rapido stuff because I just don't know what to say. Yeah, quite literally, I had nothing to say on the matter, which could be good or bad. We won't know until tomorrow. However, I am really excited about the Bachmann USA thing, narrow gauge stuff that's coming out. I think what's really important about that is effectively Bachmann have looked at it and gone, well, do you know what? People could buy our Thomas and Friends stuff and do the kits, or we could just do it ourselves. So, and the colours for the Sir Hayden look phenomenal. That red looks absolutely outstanding. I'd like to see some more sort of the Talaclin rolling stock, the sort of the small coaches. I want to see a few more of those.
Oh, you remind me, they are doing the coaches as well.
Are they? Oh, fantastic!
Yes, they are. There's 4 of them off the top of my head, all in Talaclin red.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think it's quite exciting. I think obviously the Backman USA stuff has been coming over here a little bit late. I don't even know if the Talaclins landed or not, or if I completely missed them. I've got a Scarload to butcher up anyway, but yeah. So it's Backman USA through the Backman Europe shops, I suppose. It's probably how that's coming through. But yeah, I think it's quite exciting to see that the Talaclin stuff is coming through. Because obviously the Backman Europe stuff is quite Festiniog heavy, so to get a bit of Talaclin in there is quite nice and exciting as well. But yeah, as you say, the Backman announcement's due soon. I don't know what they might announce, but just have to wait and see on that one, I suppose.
Yeah, but it's all looking good for narrow gauge. I think that's certainly something that we can take coming out of this, and also sort of going back onto the new arrivals, the Cavalex Class 60s do look amazing. That I just refer to. I know it's the steel on steel livery, but to me it just looks like lava, the lava train I call it. But it just that the application of the livery on those is phenomenal.
Yeah, it looks really impressive. I just checked. Yeah, the Talaclins haven't landed in stock yet, and there was a lot of talk last year they were going to be coming in imminent. And I know they're out in America, but yeah, no, still be awaiting on that one.
Okay, fair enough.
There we are. Cool. Shall we move on to today's topic? In which do you remember last year when they said the hobby was dead?
No, I didn't. When did they say that?
Let's old Lord Chester Worthington tell us about his lovely weathered models, and then we'll talk about when they said the hobby was dead. Actually, Sam, stop it there. I've just realised something. We haven't talked about the most important thing from last week's Fight Club. Who won out of the Class 50 and the Class 52? Now, I appreciate that we said we were going to do a poll, and then neither of us did a poll. But it doesn't matter, because you responded in the hundreds, maybe? I don't know. I don't
It was a lot. It was a lot of people.
What won, Sam?
By a landslide. It was the Class 50 James that won that round.
Absolutely incorrect. I think you'll find that the reason I didn't run a poll was because I got the answer that I needed off the one and only person that needed to tell me the answer, and that was my dad, who texted me to tell me that the Class 52 is the outright winner there. No need for a poll, although the Class 55 really should have beat the 52. But there we go. So it was indeed the Class 52. We're going to take a short break now, and I'm going to celebrate my victory.
Just to clarify, this is the same person that said we're not better than Charlie.
Yeah, see? So, and he's right. We're not.
Sir, a delivery has arrived for you.
Bring it through, Wilson. This'll be my loco I sent to Emperor's Path.
Was it airbrush or oils this time?
Both. It's all very affordable.
Even for a poorly paid butler like me?
Oh, yes. Just remember, Emperor's Path Weathering.
Contact Sam at Emperor's Path via email at emperorspathcontact@gmail.com or Instagram at emperors_path. If it's not filthy, let's fix that.
Look at that.
So, Sam, do you remember last year when it was a dark time? The clouds were over, it was raining almost every day. There was little to look forward to. Maybe something in the future, maybe the thought of going to a nice big model railway show or treating yourself from a nice big model shop that just managed to get whatever you wanted at a nice discounted price. And then all of a sudden, those dreams were taken away from you. The large retailer decided that they no longer wanted to sell model trains to us. Or the very large model railway exhibition that decided they'd had enough. It was too much work, too much effort, too much for them to put together. They needed to slow things down. And with that, Hatton's closed its doors, and the Worley Model Railway Exhibition was to become a shadow of its former self as it shrunk down to a smaller little show in Staffold. And everyone cried, "The hobby is dead." Does that jog your memory? Does that?
Ooh, I've got chills down my spine. That was audiobook worthy, James. I felt like you were addressing the troops there. That was good. You've rekindled my memory. That yeah, it did feel like everyone was saying that the hobby was dying. Wasn't also one of the reasons that Hornby did a really small announcement as well, and that was also something that people took as the hobby was dying.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. Yes, yes. Hornby's very small announcement obviously meant that there would be no more models to come, which maybe led Hattons to think there'll be nothing to sell, and thus they shut their doors. But
And
they're wrong,
thus,
right?
and thus we are in the hobby apocalypse.
That's it. Yeah. Dead, dead, dead. Except Hornby come back later in the summer with even more models to announce. So how wrong they were, how wrong they were, how right do you think people might have been? Do you feel that there has been a decline in the hobby, or do you feel that it is still increasing and becoming stronger than ever?
I think yeah, I've had a few conversations with people, and there seems to be this weird like there is definitely a divide in the sense that some people believe that Hornby, like this is the end for them. But for me, I think they're coming back strong. I mean, we spoke very positively about this year's hobby announcement, but I I I didn't feel when everyone was screaming from the rooftops, it's the end of the hobby is dead, long live the hobby. I didn't feel at any point that the hobby was dying. And it's sort of like this weird catastrophe thing where people are predicting the end of the hobby. But if anything, I feel like in the last 12 months, we've had better sales. We've seen, yes, it's been on sale items that haven't sold as well, but we've been seeing some prices that we haven't seen as good for like a very long time. We've seen brand new Bachmann Class 47s retailing. I mean, one came out earlier today at £130 for a brand new Bachmann, and we haven't seen prices like that in a very long time. So
No?
I feel like the last year has been the hobby's managed to reach a new strength. I mean, we've had so many announcements from different hobby retailers, and a lot of them being the smaller companies, and using quotation marks there because they're obviously off the ground enough that they're not small. But I felt like we were having a new Rapido announcement every couple of weeks. I felt like we were having a new Akira scale announcement every couple of weeks. So for a hobby that's dying, it seems to be doing pretty well.
Do you know what I think was one of the most important announcements of last year? Was Revolution's announcement of the modern day, I can't remember the code, but the box wagons for TT gauge. Of all the announcements, that was such a surprise announcement because it's a niche scale being produced by a niche company. So this is essentially quite the gamble by them to be producing this. And if you were concerned that things were in decline and you might need to protect, your income and your outcome and etc., you wouldn't go gambling on TT, right?
No, if you felt like it was going on this massive decline, why would you put your money, your effort, and your time into a scale that I mean, we've even heard it from close friends that a certain scale is going to die and tank the hobby. But you know what? They've seen that the 66 was on its way. What a fantastic thing to put with the 66 and actually bolster. We saw a couple of companies drop out of the TT range, but with Revolution coming, I think you're so right. Although it's not a hobby that we are fascinated with, it's not a scale that we are fascinated with. Seeing and hearing that they were going to start developing into TT, I think is massive. Like that's such a big thing, and I think it's definitely a really good sign of where the hobby is right now.
Yeah, I think it could be a game changer for that scale. I think it could open it up. It's like you said earlier, you were at the Southampton show, and there's complaints of a lot of lack of modern image layouts. And let's be realistic about the logistics of this. The reason that there probably is such a lack of modern image layouts is your trains that you're going to have to run on that layout to look like today's railways. You're looking at HSTs of at least 7 cars, freight trains of intermodal, got to be a minimum of probably 14 wagons to look right. Anything smaller is going to start looking a bit too short. And, to accommodate trains of that size, you're going to need a very big layout. And then you're going to need to transport that layout. You're going to need people to work that layout. And therefore, when you say, well, actually, there was quite a few in Engage, Engage has that advantage that it's smaller. So then it can accommodate these large trains. But TT, as it's always sort of intended to be, is supposed to be that happy medium between the two where your eyesight isn't destroyed, but you've still got the space to model this kind of thing. So, it's probably a scale there that's definitely going to be up on the rise, I think, as we progress further along. Um, I definitely, I think there is a lot more positivity about the hobby in the media. I think the stereotype of, it's just the loner in their carriage or their shed just tucked away. It's all a bit strange. It is starting to be washed away, and the hobby is being more appreciated for what it really is. It's a share of artistic talent, electrical knowledge, historical knowledge as well, being displayed and shared in the community and being appreciated by the more of the outside world. And you've got the likes of, I mean, Francis Bourgeois, obviously, he does dip into model railways. He's more of the real railways, but he's definitely brought the hobby into a positive light. Whether you like him or not, I know he's very chalk and cheese. He's done wonders for this hobby, I think, in getting people to go, it's a great hobby. Oh, I never realised how fun it was, or it's so nice to see your enjoyment. And rather than people taking pleasure out of destroying you for your enjoyment, the world has changed and wants to see people enjoy their hobby. And it's so nice to see comments of people putting that. And I think that in turn maybe has encouraged other people to be more open about um, their hobby and who they are. I mean, let's face it. I think Rod Stewart admitted himself he used to keep it a bit of a secret. But look, he's been the railway modeler again, showing off that amazing layout that he's worked on. And he's so proud of his hobby now and what he's done. And I think that's, such a positive sign. It can't be that dead because people are, celebrating what it is and who they are. And Pete Waterman got a world record in the hobby. Him and the rail nuts, and let's not forget the team effort. But and that was celebrated. I definitely think it's on the move and changing. And I think there's a younger audience coming into it, which again throws back to like you say about the prices of Hornby. How good was it to see that railroad range being announced with models that will appeal to the younger generation at a price tag that is affordable? I'm not saying quite, some of the models, maybe that new 040, that could essentially be pocket money models. Um, and then the other stuff is definitely more achievable as gifts for birthdays, etc.
And I feel like looking at that railroad stuff, I can't think of bar the Christmas train. If you looked at the comparison of some of the railroad stuff we've had in the last couple of years versus what they announced in their New Year announcement, I felt like the quality, like that Azuma, I was looking at it and I thought that doesn't look like a railroad cheap train set train. That looks like a train that if you were modeling something like King's Cross or an area like that, a station area where you needed, like you go into King's Cross and there's thousands of those, obviously not thousands, but there's loads of those Azumas lined up. Do you know what? That's the perfect thing. Even if you're an experienced modeler, you could have loads of those set up to have just a few that aren't your brand new Gucci ones that are going to be running out of the station, but you could have loads lined up there to populate your layout. So it appeals to both the new people who are just getting into the hobby, but also the experienced people who are looking to find ways of, I want to run LNER. Well, there's thousands of these running in. I want to model a big terminus station. Well, I need loads of these in there as well. And I think it is definitely the perfect middle ground for all of those people out there.
Yeah, it was needed, wasn't it? The budget end of the Class 800 family was needed because we are moving in the real railway terms to a new era and generation of train and locomotive and what is seen out there on the railway. If you want to keep people in the hobby, we all know that this is very much nostalgia based. The different generations that model tend to model what they saw in their childhood. There are exceptions to that rule, but they generally do follow that pattern. So if you know that you need new blood in the hobby, you're going to need to make models of what's out there today, but you need to make it in a price range that's going to be affordable for people to join that hobby. And as it stood, the Hornby price rises of last year pushed the Class 802, the Transpennine one, over that £500 mark. No one in their right mind is going to be buying an 8-year-old a £500 model train for their birthday. It's just not feasible, so you need that railroad model in that market to bring them in the hobby, to make it accessible, to make it within reach. So, like you say, you can model what is out there, what you see. Like if you're at King's Cross and you want to model King's Cross, now it can be done, and that's, I mean, that from the Hornby announcement, that was one of the most positive things to see come from it was the railroad range and the thought behind the railroad range. It was definitely someone who put some thought into it and said, we need this. This is the fact that the 66s have been moved into the railroad range says a lot.
Yeah.
The introduction of those, the old Lima PTA wagons, or what they were, the box wagons, they're all right. They're not correct for what they've modelled them as. Who cares? It's £20 a wagon that you can get a couple of them lined up behind a 66 and it's going to look great. You've got the cheaper container wagons within the range. Again, I know as a kid, long as it looked like what I saw on the railway, it didn't matter that it wasn't perfect. And again, with the rise of 3D printing and all that, aftermarket parts to improve these models are becoming more and more easily accessible. And it's something to encourage people into the hobby to go, it is a modeling hobby. Ready to Run kind of took that away from us. Ready to Plant took that away from us. We once upon a time would scratch build these things and detail them up. You'd buy a Lima model and decide the grills weren't good enough, so you'd get the Dremel out and you'd cut out the old grill and put the new one on and match the paint and weather it up and renumber it and have something that was special to you, that you put the effort in, and it didn't cost a lot of money to start off with in the first place. So if you mucked it up, it didn't matter too much. The more modern stuff has become so detailed and fantastic, but at the same time, there's a price tag to it that, I think some people are even afraid to get the airbrush out on a model in fear of ruining a very expensive model. So, yeah, but like I said, I think that railroad range is the most positive sign that the hobby is not dying.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, another way we can look at it is you've got two massive, absolutely massive layouts who, if this hobby was dying, wouldn't be competing with each other to try and break each other's records. Because not only have you got Pete Waterman's Pete Waterman's and the Rail Nuts layout making tracks, you've also got that O-gauge, and I'm really sorry, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but that O-gauge layout that previously held the record for the largest model railway.
Heaton Lodge.
Heaton Lodge, there you go. You got Heaton Lodge. They're trying to go, well, they've taken our record, we're going to try and break it back. And like, obviously that's a lot of money. And they've even said they're asking for donations to help them try and do that. But what a fantastic thing that we have two people in the hobby, albeit one of them is a famous record producer with like as the main mascot of one layout, but there's another person who's not. Who is trying to beat that still. And that's such a fantastic thing that we've got. And I'd love to see both of those layouts at the same show sat right opposite each other, because it would just be such a good. I can't imagine that they're going to hate each other in real life, but it's the idea of, oh, you stole my world record. And you know what? That's such a fantastic thing that we've got these two massive layouts. And then not even to tarnish that, I think that a lot of the little layouts are really stealing the show. Like I said in the intro, like there were so many smaller layouts at the Southampton show that just captured my heart and my eyes. Like they were so beautiful, and I think for a hobby that's dying, I don't think people would be putting as much effort as they do into this. And you have a very varying degrees of levels of what people are willing to do on their layout. You've got people who will kit. I mean, from the Southern Bias side of it, you've got Danny and Pete from NSC Latchmere and various multiple units and Southwest Max. They're doing all these amazing things to create multiple units that they know would be correct, rather than just running the same models and accepting that there's only one particular EMU that apparently runs on the South Coast. And then you've got people who are making all these amazing dockside railways where they're putting all these tiny little pieces of detail in there. They're doing all these little things that you wouldn't always necessarily notice, but they do. And then you've also got the people who are just building a layout just to have a little bit of fun. And I feel like everyone's going so whole hog into the things that they can do on their layout on very different levels. Like, that's a fantastic thing in this hobby. I think it's one of the best things about the hobby.
Yeah, definitely. I think the rise of the ready-to-run industrial locomotive has been a game changer to the hobby. I think Hornby started it with the Peckett, and it's been followed in suit. Originally with Hattons, and then now Curious Scale with the Andrew Barclay, Daypole with the Leslie Hawthorne. Hornby have obviously bought out others. Rapido are joining in. They've got their obviously the Bagnall twins. They've got Hanswell Clark. If I recall, I think that there's the I can't think of the name of the other model now. I can see it in my head. The locomotive called Victory with the outside cylinders 060. Apologies, I can see it in my head, but I can't remember. I can't remember the name of the loco or who made it. But all these are great industrial locos are coming through, and like you say, and they don't require masses of space. They can be done in a very small area, just to model. You want to do a little colliery line with a loader. That it's not going to take out an entire room. You don't have to dedicate your entire loft to the hobby. It is accessible and can be put somewhere, put away and taken out when you want to use it. So there's a lot more variety that's come from it. You're not just restricted to the mainline stuff, and the big expresses that would push you into going into those larger layouts. And it's the same with, the rise of Ready to Run 009. 009 is increased in popularity because of its availability in Ready to Run, and it again ticks those boxes and advantages. And we've discussed this before, where it's the perfect scale in the sense that it is an N-gauge footprint layout, so it's not taking out the entire room, but it's also not destroying your eyesight by requiring you to look at the tiny details in 2mm to the foot. You're still modeling in 00 gauge. Like you say, there's a lot growing out there, and definitely, I think it's definitely exciting times. And like you say, the competition for the largest layout, I think it's great. I think it brings so much attention to the hobby. And more importantly, when you look at shows as well, I've noticed, and we've discussed this before with other people that have come on the show, there is a lot more young blood coming into this hobby. And again, I throw that back to Hornby with this railroad range. Then I come back into hobby, and there is something achievable out there for them to aim for if they want to join in, which I think is such a great sign.
There's something to be said for the fact that a couple of years, obviously 5 years ago, we had an unprecedented thing in our social system world, however you want to talk about it, where there are a lot of people who thought a lot of the main hobbyists weren't going to be coming back after the world went back to normal. Read into that however you want to read into that, whether that's based on age, interest, or anything like that. We've come back from that horrible period in our lives where some people were forced to stay at home. And whilst in some instances it was great, in other instances it was really rubbish. And I remember going to the first show after the world opened back up again, and I was like, it filled me with this like little bit of joy. I was like, yeah, this is. I probably before would have gone, I don't need to do this all the time. But do you know what I've thought about since then is how much I can't wait to go to certain shows, or if I have the time, I'm going to try and go to this show. And now, 5 years later, we're at a point where I didn't think 4 years ago that I'd be working at more than one show a year. And then my calendar for this year is looking great. Like I'm working more shows than I did last year, and I have made some fantastic friends out of it. I mean, I get to sit and do a podcast about it for a hobby that's dying. Like all you had to do is look at. This sounds like we're bragging, and do you know what? Actually, we kind of are because it's a big deal. A model rail podcast made it into the UK top 30 last year. Put that down onto paper. A model rail podcast made it into the UK top 30 on Spotify, the world's biggest audio streaming platform that we have out there. And that's not in a niche division or anything like that. It is the UK top 50.
We're up against the likes of the sports podcasts, the comedian podcasts, all that, all the really high up, names. We're up against proper celebrity names
Like
now.
actual physical celebrities who their job is being famous. So
whose income relies on their podcast.
It'd be nice if our income relied on our podcast, but we're not there yet. But is it like how can you sit here and say it's a dying hobby when something as simple as that? Put that onto paper. Take me and James out of the equation. And even if you had said to me that a model rail podcast made it into that stratosphere, is that the right term? That seems we would never have dreamed if that would be a thing, and I wouldn't have dreamed that would be a thing, even if Pete Waterman and I was about to say Rod Gilbert. It's not Rod Gilbert. Rod Stewart sat down and did a podcast together. I would never have thought they would have reached that particular height. And you could look at. We have so many YouTubers who are going from strength to strength because YouTube is the biggest model railway thing because it's very much a visual hobby. And you have people like our friend Joseph. Big shout out to him. He just reached 40,000 subscribers, and like. I mean, there's plenty of channels out there who don't have that many subscribers, and I know James and myself. Sorry, we're those people as well. We're not even touching 5,000 subscribers yet, but there's so many hobbyists out there who are pushing themselves and reaching these new dizzying heights of. You know what? I really can't wait for the day that Joseph, because I've met Joseph in person. Plus, also we talked to him for the show. One of the nicest people I've met in this hobby, and such a humble person, and I cannot wait because it's going to happen. I cannot wait for him to break that 100k mark, and I will be sat here screaming and shouting for how good he is at what he does in a dying hobby.
Yeah, exactly, and he's not the only one, is he? I think Charlie can't be far away if he's not already done it, right? For Chadwick. In fact, I'm just going to Google it now just to see how close he is. He's on 75,000 subscribers. 75,000 subscribers, and we know that's the world over. I've seen American channels that have referenced Charlie. I'm watching him, or Charlie Chadwick said. But again, it's the hobby with the internet is open to the world. And that's probably, again, such a great thing of why it's become so positive and how we learn so much. And I'm sure you're the same. I don't just watch British modelers. I watch European modelers. I watch American modelers. I watch Australian modelers because it's not just a hobby we all like to model what's in our country, what we see. That's just the nature of the beast. but we all like to see each other's work, and it's such an appreciation of what you can achieve, what can be done, sharing of ideas, because again, we discussed this before, where European modelers build layouts in a certain way. American modelers with their massive basements obviously build theirs in a different way. With the English, because we're on a tiny little island, we have tiny little houses, we have tiny little spaces, we build our layouts in a different way. But we can all share ideas, and sometimes you can take that idea and bring it over into your niche of the hobby. Um, and yeah, I think you're right. The growth of YouTube is such a fantastic thing. It's really brought to our attention modelers that we may not have otherwise seen or know about. There must be layouts that are on YouTube where someone may have doubted, because lots of people do, don't they? Oh, I'm only started the channel because my wife told me to do it, or I just wanted, Everard Junction's been someone. He started recording because he kept forgetting how he do something. Then he could go back and watch the video of how he did his bit of modeling. So that one grew from there. Like how massive. I know he's been away for a while. I think obviously he's been moving house, and I'm sure we'll find out what adventures he's been up to in the past year. But um, otherwise, I'm sure there's layouts on YouTube that you'd never see, because they probably were doubted. They wouldn't get into a magazine. They never would have contacted, Railway Modeler or Model Rail, Hornby Magazine, BRM, Model Rail Journal, any of them, to say, look, I've built this. I think would it be good enough to be in your magazine, kind of thing. They might have had that bit of doubt, but because it's such a community through YouTube, it's a case of people say this is brilliant, this is great, and it can give that encouragement to people to carry on. I know I had that with my 009. Again, sometimes you'd work on it and you wouldn't think something was that good, or you'd mess something up and then you were sort of a bit downer on it, and then someone would come along and they'd put a comment in the comment section, and it would give you that kick to go, yes, no, you know what? No, I can do this. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, I'm sure you probably feel the same with comments on your own channel.
Yeah, I think I sometimes feel really bad because I compliment you directly on the show before pre-warning you that I'm going to compliment you. And I do it because I'm very much of the, if you do think that something is good, you should tell them that you think it's good. And some people may find that cringy. I mean, I kind of have this life's too short philosophy to a certain degree. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going out and spending tons of money at the casino, but sometimes I say things because I do have this weird mentality in my head that sometimes the little demons inside go, what if you weren't here tomorrow? Would that person know how you felt? And I kind of put that in this sort of, God, sorry, this went dark really quick. But the idea of that, like, does this person know that I appreciate them? And it's why I made an effort, like, when you first did your 009 build and we weren't like close, I still made an effort. Like, I enjoyed your stuff before, but seeing the 009 build made me really want to do 009. I used to comment on it, and whenever you shared that you had a new video coming out on Instagram, I shared that video, and I was like, yes, he's back and stuff like that. And I think it's really important to do it. And I'm sometimes guilty of forgetting to do it with certain people, or not sharing certain people's stuff. And it's not because I don't care. Sometimes life is busy and we can't do that, but we're in a really welcoming space where we have a lot of James and I on Facebook. So we have this weird thing where we're missing a certain percentage of the hobby. But you know what? The hobby community that we do have on Instagram, there's no way that it feels like that this hobby. I keep saying the hobby's dying because I'm trying to reiterate why we're talking about this and why we're talking like this. But I think there is so much love and appreciation out there. That don't get me wrong, there's some stuff where it's a little bit too critical for people playing with effectively miniature trains. But yeah, sometimes you get that comment on your channel, rolling back to what you actually said, you get a comment on your channel that suddenly gives you that spur of, do you know what? I do want to do this. And I find like sometimes that I appreciate all the regular people who come back and comment on every single video. It's when you get a comment from someone who you didn't know followed you. That's the one that sometimes gives you that weird burst of, holy crap, I'm going to do this. Like it's almost like the people who you don't always hear from, who sometimes spur you on that little bit more, or someone who you not idolize, but someone who you look up to. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. When you get those comments off the the bigger channels, and I know I mean that's the other advantage of doing the podcast. We've managed to speak to such a range of wonderful modelers. Ones with massive, so like you say, Joseph, Tris, Double O'Neill, all these high hitting subscribers, and it's always so nice when one of them comments on your channel and says, "Oh, I really like what you did," because then you feel like, yeah, you know what, I'm getting there, I'm moving there. That they've noticed me. I remember the first time Richard at New Junction commented on my 009. He was like, "Oh wow, Richard knows of me. This is great." Um, again, it's a positive spin, and like you say, it's that expansive community, isn't it? And you know, um, that's one of the things I have liked about doing the podcast is when we do the interviews, the people we get to talk to, and get the insight into modelers, and obviously we chat to them off recording as well. And we've formed friendships through this with people that may otherwise we may not have um, become friends with. And I think that's one of the things I've liked about this. But it's that sense of community of something that we all enjoy, that we all share, and I don't think any of us are in any sort of doubt that this hobby's just going up, isn't it? It's not dying. None of us think that. We're all for it. And I think yeah, it's the doomers and gloomers just like to doom and gloom, and it's this isn't going anywhere for anytime soon. Worley, they hung up their boots for the big show in Birmingham, and quite rightfully, they are. That's probably where a change is the model railway clubs are probably older demographics where we are. The difference is now the younger demographic probably are more of a community through social media. So Worley, as I say, they hung up the boots, but Warner stepped in and decided to do their own show. So it wasn't like Worley said, "No, there's no point. No one ever comes anymore," because Warner's obviously saw it and went, "Well, obviously people still want to go to the show, but we'll do our own take on it." And there you go. I think it was like less than 2 months after the Worley one was said, that's it, no more. Warner said, no, we'll do it. So you wouldn't do that if you thought it was dead. You didn't
You,
think you were going to make some money out of it.
you could easily apply that to the Hattons thing as well. Look how many toolings of Hatton stuff that we now have being made by manufacturers who have improved the Hattons tooling. So they've effectively done what Warner did with the Worley show. They've done it with the Hattons models. We've had some Hattons models that have come out and have been fantastic. It always sounds like I'm heavily biased towards them. It's not deliberate, but the Akira Scale 66 met with open arms and everybody's loved it. Then you've also got the Andrew Barclay. There's lots of other things that have been picked up by other different companies who have taken Hatton's things, but it's that thing of, well, if they're not going to do it, there is a market for this particular thing. We're going to do it, and I think that's just another thing that you can add to the little bit of fuel that you can add to the fire of the hobby's not dead.
Yeah. And I think, people were, oh no, Hattons is gone like that. I think there was a silver lining to that. And I think that was for the smaller model shop, because all of a sudden you'd have to go find someone else who's going to sell you your models. And I'm sure a lot of people probably moved over to the next big retailer. But for one, I've started using two, well, I say local, they're nowhere near local, but the two most local shops to me, I've definitely gone there a lot more. I put pre-orders in with them because I'm trying to support that smaller business, and I'd like to think other people did the same after Hatton's shut their doors. So yeah, I think this hobby is definitely here to stay for a good few years at least. Maybe we can come back to this subject in a couple of years and see if it's falling apart yet or not. But for me, I don't think it's going anywhere for any time soon.
No. And I guess a big, massive thank you to everyone who has done this hobby in the last year. Obviously, if you don't listen to us, you're never going to know about it. But I say this to all hobbyists who have been part of the model rail community. You've all done a fantastic job in keeping this hobby alive, because at the end of the day, if you weren't buying stuff, then the hobby would be dead. So clearly, People are buying stuff, people are engaging with each other and helping spur each other on and create this fantastic community that we have that helps it thrive.
Well, I think we've put that one to bed. So, shall we take a short break and come back and do our social media shout outs? Hello there, dear listener. We thought we'd just take a moment to talk to you about our Patreon. For the last few weeks, Sam has been putting out an advert impersonating David Attenborough, trying to entice you to give us your money. And you were right not to do it. But now we ask you from the bottom of our hearts to follow us on Patreon.
If you do want to support us in what we do and you believe that what we do is good enough that you want a part of your money, you can find us on Patreon and you can start donating for as little as $1 a month. It's in dollars, it's in freedom credits, however you want to say it, but eventually it will just take the pounds from your bank account. And if you do want to support James and myself, head on over to Patreon. There's varying levels and tiers that you can do. And there's even a tier where I'll weather stuff for you and James gets the benefit of it. So why not support us on Patreon today?
Indeed. And that way we can get new microphones so you can stop complaining that you can't hear us. So, yeah, I think that was a very interesting topic to talk about. Obviously, the hobby is not dead. It's alive and kicking. We're dragging it through the mud, and we're not going to let it die. And you know, if we can get some more cool people on board, not that you people are not cool, but you know, some people have higher, you know, recognition than others. You know, people might be a bit more chill about it. You know what I'm saying? A bit more riz. Is that what the kids say? Riz.
Yep, we are definitely Riz.
Yeah, Sigma. So
We are
kids say.
we are
Why
demure.
are you saying letters from the Greek alphabet? What's going on here?
Yeah, my child's not at the age where that's becoming a thing. Instead, she's just talking back to me.
Yeah. It's not far off then. Not far off. Lovely stuff. Anyway, I am going to get out the exhibition diary before we do our YouTube shout outs. So, for this coming weekend, those of you that are in the Blackpool area can go on Saturday the 8th to Blackpool and Northfield Model Railway Club for a club rail day. It's the Cleveleys Community Centre and Church at Kensington Road, off Beach Road, at Cleveleys of Lancashire. On the weekend of the 8th and the 9th, the Warner's exhibition of the Festival of British Railway Modelling is at Doncaster Racecourse. So a nice big show, I think probably the first big show of the year. So yeah, Aborty Road, Doncaster, South Yorkshire. There's going to be over 30 layouts there, over 60 exhibitors with specialist manufacturers and retailers and all that. It's one I've always wanted to go to, but whenever I look, I go, it's a bit of a trek to Doncaster. So it's never quite been achieved, but it does look a good show. So if you're obviously up to north, there's one to go through for this weekend. Or if you're in the south, you can go to the East Dorset area Engage Group in the Bournemouth Model Railway Exhibition, and it's at the Hamworthy Cub at Magna Road in Wimborne, Dorset. So, but just to let you know, they have only just found out that the event space has a football match on the Saturday, kick off at 3 p.m. So arrive early on that day if you want to get some parking. The 8th and 9th of the Cali Rail Society, the 19th Model Railway Exhibition. This is at the Garto Light Railway at Common Lane, Instant near Templecombe in Somerset. Also, Sunday the 9th is the Grange Community Association 41st Annual Modellers Exhibition at the Grange Community Leisure Centre in Bepton Road, Midhurst, West Sussex. And that is all the exhibitions for this up and coming weekend. Sam, do you have your social media shout out ready for this week?
I do have my social media shout out ready for this week, James. This week, I'm giving a shout out to Pride Parkway. That's Pride Parkway. Phenomenal looking layout in Double O. And there's a lot going on, and I really, really enjoy watching their layout updates. So if you haven't watched it already, go and check out Double O Gauge layout Pride Parkway. They are also working on an N gauge layout as well.
Yeah, I've seen that channel. Yeah, if I recall, is the N gauge above the O gauge, both going around the room? Is that right?
Yes, that's the one.
Well, That sounds like a good shout. Myself, I'm going to shout out Frontington and Backwood. It's nestled somewhere in the West Country of the UK. A little rural railway line links the town of Frontington to the neighbouring village of Backwoods. Visitors were able to see steam locomotives pulling passenger coaches and freight trucks at various times of the day. Just over 2,000 subscribers, 47 videos for you to go through. It is a steadily increasing channel, hitting over 100,000 views and climbing. So yeah, Fronting and Backwards is my shout of the week. It's a lovely little layout and videos, channels, etc. So that's my recommendation of the week. Sam, there's only one thing left to do. It's the social media shout outs as we sit in our moral dilemma of whether we stick with Meta or not. But for the moment, how can people find you?
So it's probably worth we genuinely forgot about it last week, and we almost forgot about it this week until James reminded me before we recorded. We do need to talk about t-shirt time.
T-shirts, yes, t-shirts.
So
we said you could win a t-shirt. How can they win a t-shirt?
So there's two ways to win a t-shirt. If you follow us on Instagram, there is going to be a post with a picture of the t-shirt on it. What you need to do is you need to comment on that post what size t-shirt and what color t-shirt you would like. No promises, but just give us an idea. We'd like a comment of size, color on that particular t-shirt. You then have...
I'll just point out something there. Linden Off-White doesn't count.
Throwback, obviously, to our Christmas quiz there. You also have to share the post to your stories and tag me, James, and the podcast in your story. So to get an entry, you have to comment on the post, you have to follow us, and you also have to share the story, tag me, James, and the podcast in there. Secondly, if you are one of our Patreon supporters, thank you very much, Patreon supporters, even if you sign up to our Patreon for just 1 month, at the end of the month, I will take a list of all of our patrons on there. And as long as you subscribe to our Patreon on the £5 or more, you get an additional chance to win a t-shirt. So all of our patrons currently will get the chance to win a t-shirt. If you sign up to our Patreon for at least 1 month, you get a chance to win a t-shirt too. So that is the same thing. I will put a post on our Patreon where you comment on your size and color, and you could be within a chance of winning a t-shirt there too.
There we are. Exciting stuff. T-shirts all round for one person. Right then.
However, if you do want to get hold of me, you can get hold of me at Emperors_Path on Instagram. Alternatively, you can get hold of me on YouTube at Emperors Path. James, if they want to get hold of you, how can they do so?
Yeah, you should really know by now that it's Western Signalman on YouTube and Instagram. Don't email me. I can't get in. And also, Model Rail Replacement Podcast. You're definitely going to need to find that if you want to win a t-shirt. So find us on Instagram as the Model Rail Replacement Podcast. If you need to email us, and people have been. We've been emailed by people. Thank you very much. It's nice to talk to you all. Model Rail RP and outlook.com. That's all I can say for now. Hopefully we've been entertaining, informative, and have replaced your podcast, if only just for a little bit. I've been James, and with me has been Sam.
This service terminates here. Please ensure you take all of your personal belongings with you.